Hey everyone, happy Monday on this wet and rainy, windy Monday up here in Boston and New York. But I'm super excited to chat about the future of social media marketing and transforming social media content for brands. So let's chat with Kate from Dash Hudson. Kate, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Well, thanks for being here, and I really appreciate that. Maybe introduce yourself and Dash Hudson for those who aren't familiar with the brand.
Sure, happy to. So as you mentioned, my name is Kate Kenner Archibald. I am the Chief Marketing Officer here at Dash Hudson. At Dash Hudson, we are a social media management platform. So we really enable marketers and social media managers to have a complete suite to manage all of their social channels, everything from Instagram to TikTok, and coming shortly LinkedIn. But all of your key channels are in our platform, and really, it's the ultimate tool to understand your data and analytics on social media.
Well, that's a lot to cover, and we're going to dive right in. And as a content creator and influencer, I have lots of questions. Maybe start off with the sort of MarTech landscape. So many companies providing tools and platforms and applications. How do you differentiate? How do you stand out among the crowd? What's your sort of elevator pitch, if you will, given the hundreds of tools out there at the moment?
Yeah, great question. So how do we differentiate ourselves? There's a couple of ways in which we do so. The first is I'm going to start with our AI. Um,
Mm,
Dash Hudson has been around for 10 years. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary in September. And
congratulations.
thank you. And I actually was on the customer side. So I think there's like no better vouch for technology than being a customer and like wanting to go to the technology company. So 2 years ago, I left the Estee Lauder companies because I was so um, impressed, honestly, with the technology. And what was I impressed with? The AI feature that we have been building and has been learning for the last 9 years, what we call Vision, predicts how your social content is going to perform before it goes live, whether it
Wow.
is video or still. So, this prediction capability is a huge point of difference for us because it truly enables brands to have a blueprint of what they should be posting, whether it's from the brand, whether it's from a creator or influencer or UGC, right? So, like the ultimate trifecta of content creation and syndication is pulling together content from multiple different places and then identifying what is the best content to post. And so, our AI actually tells you what you should be posting. Secondarily to that, we actually just did a partnership with Estee Lauder where we looked at their content. Estee Lauder's been five of the brands have been working with Dash Hudson now for about 5 years, and we looked at if all of those five brands had been using our AI for those years, leveraging the top predicted content, how would their social perform versus if they used predicted content? And the results were astonishing. Engagement rates would increase by almost 60%, and video views would increase by almost 50%. So it just goes back to like social. I think for a lot of people is like a black box. Like, does this actually impact my ROI? How does this impact my brand
Mm.
awareness? And something at Dash Hudson we've really learned is like high engagement rates really does equal higher revenue. So if you're optimizing for those engagement rates and leveraging the technology to get you there, it's a huge point of difference. So I think that's really our first point of difference, enabling brands to have the best content to put forward. The second is this really helps save time. We estimate that we save about 10 hours a week for social media managers. That's a day, right? Like that's a
Wow.
long day. So, that's a really great way to optimize your team. One way in which we see brands leveraging our tool to save time is they actually bring our product to their photo shoots. So they have a laptop, they go to a social shoot or any photo shoot for that matter, they upload the content in real time and say, okay, which content is going to perform based off of our AI. And then they either A, adjust the photo shoot to match what they feel like the AI is directing them to, and B, they save a lot of money when it comes to usage rates, right? You're not buying 50 assets because you like those 50 assets. You're actually buying the 5 that are going to make the greatest impact. And you don't need to pay for incremental content usage. So that's a huge cost saving and time saving. And then the last point of difference I would really say is our usability. We have customers tell us that, some platforms it takes them like two weeks to 2 months to get up and running. Our platform, on average, I would say people it takes 2 hours, if that. Right? It's super intuitive. Anyone at any level can use it, and we're actually rated by G2 as the most user friendly platform.
Wow, that's fantastic. There's a lot there to unpack. I love the AI approach. Of course, AI is based on data and what we're looking for are insights. So how do you collect that data? How do you get those actionable insights from data? Some of the platforms give you some things, others not so much. There's lots of off-platform, kind of indicators. How do you bring that all together for a brand?
Yeah, so we are official marketing partners with all of the platforms that we
Oh, wow.
aggregate data from. So there's all the data is completely legitimate, and something that we really pride ourselves on, that
Hmm.
everything that we get is really what you'll see on the platform, but it's really our platform is what you do with it, right? It's how you display this data to help take insights and make it into an action.
Fantastic. So everyone's chasing engagement, including myself on this this video. But what are some of the effective, strategies, maybe tactics to increase engagement on social, on the different platforms? What are you seeing or hearing from clients today?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I think engagement is interesting, right? It's so dependent on your brand, and again, that's like kind of what
Hmm.
our AI tells us, is that it's really up to you and your audience. I think a few ground rules though that we see consistently work across the board. Short form video obviously is a huge engagement driver. We see TikTok, Reels, YouTube Shorts as great vehicles to drive engagement. And what has been working there is like truly authentic content. So, highly stylized content usually is not succeeding to the same level it was
Hmm.
previously on, let's say, Instagram and feed, but that really um, super authentic content that feels like it's not just coming from a brand, but from a friend, right? And that clear
Hmm.
communication strategy we find is really, really working.
Yeah, great point. Everyone loves to talk trends in social media, who's rising, who's falling, the TikTokification of content. Any trends you want to make us aware of? Any one, two, three trends that you think are really maybe unusual or stand out?
Yeah, I think a really interesting trend that I'd love to kind of dig into is the concept of community. So we've
Mm,
gone in the last couple of years from the social graph to the content graph. And just to refresh everyone's memory, like the social graph is what we all grew up on Facebook, where it's like, I meet Evan in biology class and I add him as my friend. And then I'm fed content based off of what Evan's up to or posting. So now we're in the world of the social graph, or sorry, it's the content graph, and that is a very
mm,
different world. And I don't think at first marketers realized what a challenge it was going to be, myself included. I think it all just happened so quickly. Um, and so the shift to the content graph is no longer right about who you follow or or what they're saying, but it's about the type of content that you're indicating that you like, right? So let's say, Evan, you're a creator, you post something about social marketing and I like that content. Then I may or may not be fed more content from Evren, but I'm likely going to be fed more content on social marketing. So this huge switch really changes how brands need to play. And that's really something at Dash Hudson we've been focusing on is how do we enable brands to be successful in this new world that we call social entertainment, right? You're no longer just going to social media to connect with people. You're going to entertain yourself, watch short form video. Um, and so one thing that we've really spoken a lot about and seen great success with brands is when they're focusing on community. So previously it was very easy to identify who was your community, right? They followed you. Followers don't matter as much anymore, especially on
Mm,
TikTok, right? Like it's just um, engagement is what matters. And if you have really strong engagement, then generally people will follow you. But again, that's not like what the algorithm is based off of. So,
mm,
how do you think broader? And the trend here is like brands that really think about community are seeing huge success. So, it's not just about, um, the people who follow you, because again, the algorithm's not based off of that. It's people who um, are engaged in the same topics that you are, right? So I'll give I came from beauty, so I'll give a beauty
mm,
example. So if you are a beauty brand on social media and you're looking to build community, you're going to want to look to the different types of communities that your brand represents. So let's say it could be, makeup artists might be one pillar of that community, for example. You then, in turn, are going to ensure that you are inserting yourself and creating like makeup artist first content that really resonates with these consumers. Um,
mm,
then the place where it gets interesting is like, let's say another community that you really want to go after is first time makeup buyers, right? So let's
mm.
say it's like, 14 to 17-year-old girls. And maybe as a brand, you don't have the authority to speak to those consumers, right? Maybe you feel like you don't have the tools to do so. And that's really where your creator strategy comes in. It's like, how do you pick creators to authentically speak to the audiences that you can't necessarily connect with?
Oh,
So
fantastic insight. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's been a really interesting shift is like we see brands who are engaging with their communities, and taking that kind of like macro view of what their brand stands for and then identifying who they should be engaging with, um, and then responding to people, creating video back to their customers where there are questions, and that's any industry, right? Like I see um, really great examples of that all the time from all different types of brands. And yeah, I think it's just such an incredible focus for brands in 2024 to really drive engagement and ultimately sales.
Fantastic. So speaking of brands, you work with kind of who's who in the industry. Have some amazing customers and references. Maybe talk about one or two of those if you could. I see on your website you have really interesting customers there. How and what are they using you for exactly?
Sure. I can speak to United. We're actually, just finalizing a case study with them now.
Mm,
Our brands really leverage us for that full funnel social media engagement. So from the
mm,
content life cycle, aggregating their content and then maximizing it. So our case study coming up with United actually focuses on Reels and how they're using our platform to optimize their Reels, whether it's through our AI data, um, or through different metrics that we have to really optimize their UGC aggregation. Really, it's a tool that they're using to pull together all of their content into one platform and then advise how they're syndicating that content.
very cool. Nice example. So where are we headed with your platform? What is the future of social media management, and how are you trying to adapt to those trends? I mean, I'm thinking personally, there's so many platforms. Some are small private communities. There's non-traditional sort of the Reddits and Quoras, and not necessarily the big tech players. What do you see there?
Yeah, I think we're at a really interesting time right now. I am assuming you agree, Evan. It's been a really interesting year with AI. So I think overall innovation across the social data and analytics industry will really be around AI and how it's enabling your teams to do more. Um, so I think that to me is just going to continue to be a big
Mm,
trend that we see. Um, I also feel like we're in some ways stabilizing a bit. Brands had a steep curve when it came to adopting TikTok. And
mm,
now we see a lot of brands, as you mentioned, we work with a lot of social first brands, but we also help brands kind of acclimate to new channels and really help advise with our incredible CS team what they should be doing to improve their social strategy. So I think we're in an interesting place where a lot of brands have now adopted TikTok. They understand how reels work. And it's again this moment of, okay, I now am getting the content right. How do I build my community? And that's really what we're seeing. Um, Specifically from a Dash Hudson standpoint, we are adding, as we speak, a few features around paid because we just do
mm,
see the opportunity to enable a social manager to understand how their social organic analytics, their earned analytics, and their paid social analytics are in one place to really optimize your social strategy.
oh wow, nice. Um, I'm curious if you're seeing an uptick in influencer engagement. I'm sort of a B2B influencer, and one thing I notice is how messy and challenging it is to work with brands, particularly big brands, on so many fronts. We get it done, but there's a lot of duct tape to be used. What are you seeing there in terms of influencer marketing, content creators, and the model of supporting working with those folks?
Yeah, I think we see that it's definitely not going away. This is a trend that is absolutely here to stay. When it comes to creators, this whole again, it all goes back to how the algorithm worked, right? Like an
Mhm.
influencer's equity was based off of followers, and then a creator's equity is now based off of like engagement, right? Like you can be a creator, an incredible creator with like, 5 followers, but still create the most amazing
Mm.
content. So I think that shift has been super interesting over the last couple of years. So I think it's absolutely here today, and here to stay, sorry, and I think what we're seeing is that brands are becoming also, um, more open to this sort of creator strategy, not just working with these macro influencers. Overall, we see that creators, um have 16 times higher engagement when they post on behalf of a brand on Instagram than when a
Oh
brand.
wow.
So everyone knows that the engagement is there and then the reach is there depending on who that influencer or creator is. But again, it all goes back to like, what is your objective of that campaign? And then finding the right partner to augment your strategy.
Yeah, great point. And it can come from non-traditional places. I mean, I'm hardly an Instagrammer, but this is live streaming now on Instagram and TikTok, and it gets, not amazing engagement, but pretty good considering the demographic and the audience and the kind of discussion. So that's awesome. Um, as we head into 2024, any advice to brands, beyond work with Dash Hudson, obviously, but any advice on their strategy for next year?
Yeah, I think my advice is like just how do you leverage your data to make the right decisions. The social AI example I give is it's like Google Maps, right? So Google Maps is always going to give you the shortest, best route to wherever you're going to go. But Google Maps doesn't know that you like to, go to this certain bakery on your way to your destination, right? Or they don't know that you want to take the scenic route, and that's okay. You should be able to do those things, but AI, such as ours or someone else's, really does enable you to understand the shortest way to get there. And it's like, how do you balance that internal discussion to create those efficiencies?
Nice. Well, that's good advice. It's never been a more interesting time to be a social media manager. I noticed around anecdotally, you're seeing a lot of very high paid roles coming out for social media into six figures, multiple six figures for some brands. So it's not sort of a back office position anymore, but also it's pretty challenging, pretty high stress job as well, more than it used to be. What are you seeing or hearing from customers about their social media teams?
Um, I think we're seeing that it is a hard job. I mean, it's a 24/7 job. And first of all, I'm happy that social media managers are getting the recognition that they deserve. I mean, when
Mm.
I started working, like a social media manager kind of was like, who is this person? What are they actually doing? And I think, you
It was the
know,
intern. Yeah, it was.
yeah, like now, 15 years later, there is incredible validation that this is a seriously important role for any brand, and that it can make such an incredible difference. I mean, look at Duolingo, right? Like, there's so many
Mm.
brands. We work with Tatcha, and they're just such a great example of a brand whose social has really just made such an impact on them. Or even United, like their creative has really just breathed such fresh air into a brand, into an industry that is just, during COVID had such challenging times. So, I look, I think their jobs are incredibly hard. They have to stay on top of trends, which we help a lot of our brands do, but it's a very hard job. And, look, happy they're being recognized as they should. And I think the major conversation we have right now is, or we get asked by our customers, is how big should these teams be, right? If you
Mm.
are at a large company, how many people do you really need to support this effort to do it right? And that's the conversation that we um, often get pulled into, because it's, people, brands that know that this is a key lever to their success want to do it right. So it's an interesting conversation.
Well, as a social media team of one, I agree that the scale comes through the technology and now generative AI and other tools. So there's a bright future for doing more with less. What are you looking forward to over the holidays? I assume you finished with travel. Do you have any events in the new year you'd like to call out?
Yes, in the new year, we're going to be hosting a couple of parties in New York. We really try to create a sense of community for social managers. So we will be hosting a cocktail party in February for all social managers in the New York area. Again, this is really just meant to get people in the same room who, there's no agenda, there's no, talks, but really just to get to know each other in the community. And I think that's just such an incredible opportunity for us to also get a pulse of what people are saying and what challenges they're facing, and how we can potentially help. And then secondarily to that, we will be at Shop Talk in March. So for
Hmm,
anyone who wants to connect in person um, at Shop Talk, we will also be there. Happy to chat.
sounds fun. And NRF is coming up in January. Lots of brands, lots of marketeers. They should probably reach out to you there as well. And full disclosure, I'm not a client, so I look forward to trying Dash
Yes,
Hudson, see what it can
yes.
do for me. We'll give it a go. Thanks so much, Kate. Thanks for sharing the insights and updates. And thanks everyone for watching. Reach out to Dash Hudson with any comments or questions. LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all the places. So have a great week.
Thank you, Evan. Thanks so much for having me on today.